Hi, I'm Peter Brusso here for the Luxury Travel Podcast, and as usual, we have the El Maestro of cruising, Charles Greenberg. Say hello, Charlie.
Hey, Peter, thank you. Thanks for having me here. Great being here.
And I understand today we're going to be talking about cruising with dietary restrictions. Is that right?
That's exactly right. If there's a person out there who has a restriction on their diet, there's no reason why they should be precluded from traveling on a cruise ship and having all that fun. So that's what we're going to talk about, the best way to travel if somebody has dietary restriction.
And you know that's apropos for me. I'm a vegetarian. As a matter of fact, I'm a no-fat vegetarian, which is even worse. So I'm really interested in the topic. So let's just jump right in.
Sure. You know, I've always thought that cruising is the absolute best way to travel. It's the most hassle-free way to travel. The basic premise is you unpack once, and when you go to sleep at night, your hotel moves, and you wake up in the morning and you're in a new city, to a new port to explore. And when people have dietary restrictions, that same simplicity can also apply, because if you're moving from one city to another, which means a different restaurant or a different hotel, you have to educate the staff each time about your dietary need. So that's the overall premise of traveling on a cruise ship with a dietary restriction. Basically, even when we're at home, special diets can be restrictive and they can be tedious. You want to go to a restaurant, you have to explain things, but when you're traveling, they really can threaten to take all the fun out of a vacation. It's just no fun spending hours and hours trying to find the right dining experience and find a restaurant that has the resources to help you and then the desire to help. But on virtually all cruises, that's not a problem. It's just not true. Cruises are the easiest and most reliable, most stress-free way to take a vacation for anybody who is on a special diet.
Can I ask a quick question there?
Anytime, sure.
Like when you buy your ticket and stuff like that, do you send any? Is there any kind of form that they send you to fill out for, like, if you're in a wheelchair or anything like that? And if so, is that where you would start to put down your dietary restrictions?
Absolutely right. Absolutely. After you pay the initial deposit on the cruise, you go online. All of this used to be paper-based in the old days, but now most of the world, it's electronic. So you go online to a section on the cruise line's website, which is either before you cruise or before you board, something like that, and you'll give them information that you want them to have. Things like your name, of course, your address. They'll want your passport number, date of birth, also emergency contact information, dining preference if you haven't set that up when you made the reservation. We're going to talk about that in a couple of minutes, but the difference between sitting at the same table every dinner or moving around from one table to another. So you put all of that information, and there's a section there for dietary needs, and that's where you give them that information.
Very cool.
And then I would do that, and then I would call the cruise line as my client's agent, make sure that information was in and recorded, and in a couple minutes we're going to talk about what you do when you get on the ship to make sure that the information was transmitted to the maitre d', to the chef, to the kitchen, so you don't have any surprises. But it's a good question. You put all of that information up front. I must say, in that before you board information, there are also opportunities for the cruise line to make sales, because that's basically what they're involved in. So there'll be a section in there asking you if you would like to dine at one of their specialty restaurants on board, which again we'll talk about. And there'll be a section that says these are the ports that we'll be visiting on your cruise. Which of any of these shore excursions would you like to participate in? So those are all profit opportunities for them. But None of it is mandatory. What is mandatory is your passport number and date of birth and all of that stuff. As my son says, your shoe size. uh, so cruises, as I said, are really the most reliable way because the cruise line for most reliable, stress-free way for somebody who has a special diet. The reason is that the cruise lines really work to accommodate suitable, delicious dining options for you. In general, cruise lines can offer many special dietary needs that are more in the standard. Things like vegetarian, vegan, low-fat or no-fat diet, lactose intolerant diet, which is dairy-free, of course, gluten-free, wheat-free, low cholesterol, diabetic, kosher diet, halal diet, and also diets for allergies. Now,
Wow.
Those things you can
That's
get.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But your request is a little bit harder because, you know, a vegetarian diet that's no fat might make them work a little bit to do that. Now, some of these diets can be accommodated just by the extensive menus that are on board. I don't think I've been on a ship in years that for any meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, even snacks, there's almost always a vegetarian option. Can't guarantee it'll be low fat, but there's almost always a vegetarian option. And that's true in all dining venues on the ship. But some of the things that you might need for your special diet are things that they have to stock and make sure that they have. So do they have gluten-free bread? Do they have soy milk? We need to alert the ship's staff about all those things. So the first step is we make a note online of your needs, and then the maitre d' will take note of your particular needs on the ship. We have to make sure that that information that we send to the maitre d' gets through to the people who are making the food and the people who are serving the food. Occasionally there might be a snafu when something goes wrong. If it does and you get something that's not suitable, you can talk to the maitre d' and they'll make every effort to fix it as quickly as possible. Don't let those quirks get in the way of having a good trip, having a good time. So I have a few tips here about how to make sure you can have a stress-free vacation with a special diet. Tip number one, which we've sort of touched upon, is alerting the cruise line as early as possible that you have a need. So as soon as you book, inform me, your travel agent, or inform the cruise line of your special dietary need. Cruise lines carry a certain amount of limited supplies on board, but if you make your request early enough, not 3 days before the ship sails, they'll make sure that it's stocked with everything that you need to satisfy your diet. Have to be specific. For example, if you're lactose intolerant and you prefer a rice, oat, almond milk instead of soy milk, you can let them know and they'll fulfill your request. Also, I would suggest taking a dietary printout with you, and you meet with the head chef on board and you give it to him. And if you're still concerned, in the worst case scenario, you can take some non-perishable foods with you that you can enjoy in your cabin. That's probably not going to happen. So that's tip number one, alerting the cruise line as soon as possible. Tip number two is make contact with somebody your first day on board the ship. Now, typically, when I get on the ship, I get on midday and lunch is being served either in the dining room or in the buffet restaurant, and I'll go there. And then after lunch, I'll wander around the ship. I want to get the lay of the land, know my way around. I'll take a look at where the pools are, the spa, the nightclub, and I also take a look at the dining room. If I'm in an assigned table, I want to see what kind of a table they gave me. I want to sit by myself with just my traveling companion, then it would be a table for two. If I asked for a table where I could meet other people, then I'd like a table for 6 or 8. Also, is the table located near the window? So a lot of people do that. I think more experienced travelers do. They go to the dining room to see where they're going to be seated. And if you're unhappy with that, the maitre d' is available outside the dining room. And I mention that because that's the place to talk to somebody when you get on board. See the maitre d' or the restaurant manager or the executive chef and confirm that they have all the details that you need, and that information was passed along to the chefs in all the other venues on the ship. That's the buffet restaurant, the specialty restaurants, places like that. If you're traveling with children, you want to make sure to tell the children's activity coordinator or the manager of that department about any special needs that your kid might have. Check out any special food and drinks that are on board, where they are, and ask about general foods to avoid, special signs or symbols on the menu, or the buffet items that'll let you know that a food dish is vegetarian or not vegetarian. Tip number 3, stay with the same dining team. When you make a reservation on a cruise ship these days, there are usually 3 options for dining. The traditional cruise lines have early seating and late seating. Mm-hmm. Of those 2, I always preferred the late seating, because if I want to stay in a port city a little bit longer and linger, I don't have to rush back for an early dinner. I could rest in my cabin for a while before dinner. That's my preference. The third choice, which is now available on just about all cruise lines, is they all call it something different. Norwegian Cruise Line calls it freestyle. Some of them call it open dining. But you come in anytime between 5:30 and 8:30 in the evening, and you just present yourself at the doorway to the anytime dining dining room, and you'll be seated. And that's nice. You get to sit at a different table every night. You get to meet some different people, but it may not be the best thing for somebody with a dietary restriction. If you have a waiter who knows your needs and recognizes that you have certain dietary limits, it pays to stay with that waiter rather than to move around. We talked about this at the beginning of our conversation a little bit. Open dining can be a little more problematic. You have to explain something every night to a new team of a waiter and a busboy, or a waiter and an assistant waiter. This way, by having the same waiter every day, he'll know what your needs are. And there's a certain comfort level to coming to your place at the table, and your glass of iced tea is waiting for you because he knows you. It's just amazing. I couldn't do this. It's amazing how quickly they learn people's needs and their special requests. And I'm not smart enough to do that, but they're really, these guys are professional waiters, men and women, and they're very good at their craft. So tip number 3 is to stay with the same dining room team. My next tip number 4, is don't be afraid to branch out a bit. If you want to try other venues on the ship, your pre-ordered meal can be served at that specialty restaurant also. So if you've ordered a special meal, you can ask, if you're traveling with other people who want to enjoy the French restaurant or the Italian restaurant or steakhouse on board the ship, you can have that meal from the main restaurant served to you there. Or perhaps on some ships, the chef there will prepare a special meal for you, consistent with your diet. And so you're welcome to try, you should be trying other venues. You don't have to feel that you're just stuck in that dining room. Then we come to another dining option on the ship, and that's the buffet. And the buffet is very tempting, and you really have to be fastidious at the buffet. The first time you go to the buffet, ask to see the manager of the room. It's a restaurant. Ask to see the restaurant manager, and ask him to accompany you around the stations. So the food stations. So that'll preempt any problems. You get to know the chefs a little bit. Don't be embarrassed. You can ask them if you have certain allergies. Ask them to put on new gloves when they're cooking, or when they cook your food, to please use freshly washed utensils. And if you're still concerned about any cross-contamination, you can request food that has not been on display. You want something cooked just for you. They'll do it, and they'll be happy to do it. the manager of the restaurant will be there to help you. And that makes the buffet experience a lot more pleasant. You know exactly what you're getting. And again, it'll be consistent with your diet. Tip number 6, how tempting this is. You get back to your room after an exciting evening, either you're in the casino or you're watching a show or you're listening to some music that you enjoy, and there on your pillow are some goodies that, you know, they've made your room, they've put the program for the next day's activities on your pillow so you can plan what you'd like to do. And here are some nice chocolates and canapes on your pillow waiting for you. The chances are that they're standardized. Even though you've told them that you're on a diet, they haven't been prepared for you. And it's important to resist that temptation to nibble those if they're not good for you. And then, speaking of eating in your room, most ships have room service available at no cost. A couple of them are now putting in a charge if you get hungry between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. or something like that. They'll cook it for you, but there'll be a nominal charge for that. But usually there's no cost for that. But if you get hungry and you want something in your room and you don't see anything suitable on the room service menu, don't despair. You can speak to the room service manager, tell them that you have a registered diet, and they will accommodate. So for my kids, one of their pleasures is ordering pizza at 11 o'clock at night, but they can handle it, and I cannot. So we're coming down. I got a couple more suggestions. When you get on the ship after that first day and you've made contact with the manager, it might be a good idea to ask for a tour of the galley. And that's where you can see exactly where the food is prepared and cooked. And that can easily allay some of your fears and your worries. You'll see how scrupulous the galley chefs are, how serious they are about keeping to special diets. You'll also be able to see that they're working in special segregated areas so that your foods are not commingled with other foods. Hopefully you'll even see on most ships that they have a gluten-free toaster so that you're not getting any crumbs of bread from somebody else. Galley tours are typically part of a general behind-the-scenes tour, so they cost a little bit of money. But even if they are, it's probably well worth it for your own peace of mind. If you want to, you could request a complimentary tour of the galley, citing that you have some special dietary needs. But it's always, it's actually sort of amazing. The largest ship at sea now carries in excess of 5,400 passengers. Crazy. And I'm amazed at how that's 5,400 passengers and about 2,500 crew members. I am constantly amazed at how they can feed these people, and it's good, so many times a day, to say nothing of how they get them on the ship and off the ship so quickly. I think some of the transit authorities of big cities around the country could probably take a lesson of how to move people. Disney is very good at that also, I might add. Not Disney Cruise Lines, but the Disney parks. Right. In Florida, if there's a sudden storm that comes up, they can just take the thousands and thousands of people who are in Disney World and get them out of there in no time at all. I think it's terrific. And they get some horrific storms in Florida, as I'm sure you know. Then there's an issue. My next tip is you want to go on a shore excursion, and if it's a lengthy shore excursion, it will include a lunch, usually complimentary, built into the price of the shore excursion. Early on, when you get on the ship, stop at the shore excursion desk, tell the manager that you're on a special diet, and ask them to notify the restaurant or restaurants that you'll be visiting. Make sure that the food they'll prepare for you will be consistent with that. And it's up to you how comfortable you are with something like that. Generally, it works. Of course, if you're traveling off the ship independently and you're not on a tour, then it's up to you again to see how comfortable you are talking to the restaurant manager. And, things like establishing cultural norms. I mean, my daughter is vegetarian and spent a year in Spain where the staple is meat. And you have to
Really
see
work
what's
at that.
wrong. Yeah. Finally, don't assume anything. There are hundreds of thousands of passengers who board the ship, hundreds or thousands of passengers who board the ship, um, you just can't assume that everybody knows your dietary needs. You should check. You should double check. You should be cautious. Just because one chef at the buffet got it right one day, don't automatically assume that another chef on the second day is going to get it right. Remind him, watch him, make sure human error doesn't enter into it. And finally, my last tip, number 10, sit back, relax, and enjoy the experience. If you do your research, you select the appropriate ship for your needs, ships a cruise line that will be responsive to those special diets, and take your allergies seriously. They'll accommodate those needs. A competent food and beverage team is going to work cohesively and unnoticed. Don't fret too much. You may have to ask some questions. You may have to give an occasional reminder. But at the end of the day, you should be able to relax, enjoy your food, and most of all, have a wonderful vacation.
I think one of the things I'm hearing is to be proactive with your dietary needs.
Yeah, that's a good way to summarize everything. There could be person A who gets on the ship and does some of the things that we were just talking about, and then person B says, well, I keyed in all the information on the computer of what I need when I'm on the ship. Now it's their problem.
Right.
Well, you don't want to get sick on the ship. It's not their problem, it's your problems.
Right.
And being proactive is earned. And that's probably a good credo for life as well, for special diets as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good. Good. Good stuff. And how do people
Thanks
find you?
Yeah, I like the idea of cruising because, as I said at the beginning of this talk, if you're on a regular vacation and you're moving from city to city, you have to explain your needs over and over again to different people. Some may get it right, and some may not. If you're on a cruise, you've got the same team, and while your quote hotel moves from point to point, you've got the same team working. I would be happy to answer any questions anybody might have. Just give me a call. I'm Charlie Greenberg. My company is Your Travel Agency, and you can reach me at 760-772-5888. We're one of those agencies that doesn't charge any fees, so the price that you pay for the cruise will be exactly the same price, maybe even less than what the cruise lines charge or what you'll see on the big internet travel providers. Right. So it's Charlie Greenberg, 760-772-5888. And if you'd like to send me an email, Greenberg, Greenberg, Charlie, Greenberg, Charlie, @gmail.com.
And I'll have all that contact information up there. Yeah.
I love talking about cruises, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. Thanks, Peter.
Well, thanks, Charlie, and I'll see you on the next podcast.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you now.
Bye, everyone.